If you think Fuji's X-T2 is a great camera, but your wallet prefers the X-T20, you may be interested in my comparison of these two cameras. Both have the same 24-megapixel X-Trans 3 APS-C size sensor and use the same Fuji X-mount lenses. Both record 4K video, share the same burst speeds, the same ISO range. If you're familiar with the X-T2 or many of Fuji's other X-series cameras, you'll quickly feel at home on the X-T20. My review model X-T20 kit includes the XF18-55 lens. I have the XF16-55 on the X-T2, which exaggerates the size difference, but it's also available with the same kit lens. With battery and memory card, the X-T20 weighs in at 383 grams, the X-T2 at 507, 30% heavier, and the X-T2 is larger in every physical dimension. This is the standard black version. A silver accented graphite version is also available at a higher price point. The X-T20 is also available all black. This is the retro-styled silver. Same price. The X-T2 and a selection of lenses like the XF16-55 are weather resistant. Although the front and back grips on the X-T2 are larger, both are easy to hold. And now before you think that all the advantages are going to fall to the X-T2, the X-T20 has a touchscreen. You can touch to focus and shoot or just focus. No touch menu though. Both offer a lot of physical controls, 3 dials on top and lack mode dials. Both have a screw mount for a remote release cable. Both have an EV dial, 3 stops either way with a C position which provides 5 stops using the front dial. Both have a physical shutter control dial with an A position for auto. The X-T20's kit lens, which ramps from f2.8 to 4, does not have marked aperture settings, but this is the same kit lens you'd get with the X-T2. The lens has an A position for auto. Many of Fuji's X-mount lenses do have marked aperture settings. The X-T2 has an ISO dial with low, high, and auto positions. In its place, the X-T20 has a drive mode selector. On the X-T20, there's a switch for full auto. The X-T2 dials need a softer touch, and it has lock buttons to prevent accidental adjustments. The X-T20's dials are clickier, requiring a firmer grip. A collar under the X-T2's ISO dial provides access to drive modes. The same modes are on the X-T20's left dial, adding a second bracket position and a second advanced filter position. The X-T2 has a meter mode collar under the shutter speed dial. It's a remarkably useful thing, one of my favorite X-T2 features. Same focus mode selector in front, and both have a context-sensitive front dial. The X-T2 also has a second fun button on the front and an old-school flash sync terminal. The back panel buttons are the same. The control ring on the X-T2 is slightly more defined. And the X-T2 has a joystick, which I use to move the focus point. Again, a remarkably useful feature. So here's the tough decision. Do you prefer touch or a joystick? The viewfinder on the X-T2 is larger and clearer, 0.5 compared to 0.4 inch. Same 2.3 dot resolution, same range on the diopter. The X-T2's screen has a slightly higher resolution, 1.6 million dots, compared to the X-T20's 1 million. Same tilt, up and down. The X-T2 also swivels out slightly from the left for portrait shooting. The X-T2 lacks a built-in flash. Use the flash lever beside the drive mode dial to pop up the X-T20's guide number 7. Both have a TTL flash Hotshoe. They use the same battery compartment on the bottom. The X-T20's also hides the SD card slot. The X-T2 has a separate card door, 2 SD slots. Behind its weather-sealed door, the X-T2 has USB 3, HDMI, a 3.5 mic connector, 2.5 remote connector. The X-T20 has USB 2, HDMI, and a 2.5 connector that's selectable between mic and remote. The same 325 focus points, 5 sizes, although selecting with the joystick on the X-T2 is slightly simpler. To simplify focus, I've assigned focus point select to F4, the right button on the navigation keypad, but of course, touch. The AFC continuous mode on the X-T2 displays the settings for each of the 5 presets and includes a 6th customizable one. Both have mechanical and electronic shutter options. Fastest mechanical shutter on the X-T20 is 1/4000th. The X-T2 goes up to 1/8000th. Electronic up to 1/32,000 on both. Flash sync on the X-T20 up to 1/180, 250 on the X-T2. Neither has in-body stabilization. The kit lens has optical stabilization activated with a switch. The X-T2 has an optional battery grip, which for me is a must-have option, and you'll see why soon. The 4K video mode is auto-capped at 10 minutes, HD caps at 15. Adding the battery grip extends video to 30 minutes on the X-T2. Both cameras are subject to rolling shutter with about the same effect, typical of cameras in this class. On the menu, both offer an 8-frame burst mode with the mechanical shutter. Recording fine JPEGs with manual settings and an SD XCU3 card, the X-T20 buffers out at 10 seconds or 82 images, slowing to about 4 per second. Similarly configured, the X-T2 performance is identical. With the shutter sound and the screen flicker, you can tell when you're no longer shooting at the full rate. Switch to electronic shutter on the X-T20. Now 14 is available. It takes 14 images for the first 2 seconds, 7 or 8 for the next 7, and then slows to 3 or 4 per second. But as there's neither a shutter sound nor a screen flicker, there's no indication that the rate has slowed. That's all the same on the X-T2. With the battery grip, the X-T2 supports 11 frames with the mechanical shutter. As I expected, it lasts for about 7 seconds before slowing. The buffer on either one clears moderately quickly, about 20 seconds. Battery life is 350 images on the X-T20, 340 with the X-T2, but again, 1000 with the battery grip. Going through the menus, I'll just point out the differences, and there aren't many. In fact, the manuals each have 336 pages. On the X-T20, there are the touchscreen options. Touch shooting takes a shot. In burst mode, keep shooting as long as you touch, or starts recording video when you touch the screen. Touch can also be selected from the screen, and note, even when an external monitor is connected, the screen remains visible and live. AF is used to select the focus point, area, or just turn it off. The X-T20 has scene modes, available when the switch is in the auto position. Use the front dial to select. SR Plus lets the camera decide, or you can choose one of 14 selections which include snow. No scene modes on the X-T2. You can also use the menu to select, which provides a little more information, although with the front dial you can see the effect immediately. The X-T20's drive menu includes the options to support the additional positions on the drive dial, but the selections are the same. Photometry is selected on the menu of the X-T20. The X-T2 has a physical dial to select the meter. Both have 2 stabilization modes, but with the switch on auto, an Easter egg. The X-T20 has 4 options. With motion, we'll use a faster shutter speed to freeze action. On the X-T20, all ISO speeds are selected from the menu. On the X-T2, the only menu options are to set up and select the auto modes. To set ISO on the X-T20, I recommend the Q menu. It's easier. Both have live HDMI out in video and stills modes, with and without overlay. The X-T20 does not have an HDMI output with F-Log setting. It does have a setting to select the use of the mic remote connector. The X-T20 has a setting to disable all sounds and flash. The X-T2 has a headphone volume control for use with the headphone connector on the battery grip. The X-T2 has options to control the focus lever joystick. Button customization looks similar, but on the X-T2 there's a second fun button. On the X-T20, Pushing the rear dial can be customized. The X-T2 has a selector for the high ISO position on the ISO dial. Although both have a lock mode, activated by long pressing the menu button, the X-T2 provides an extensive set of options to control the features that are locked. On the X-T20, touch can be disabled on the Setup menu, and that feels confusing to me, as it's also possible to do that on the Focus menu. Both have a performance selector. On the X-T20, it's called High Performance. It improves autofocus speed and display quality. On the X-T2, Boost also ups the viewfinder refresh to 100 frames per second, and when the battery grip is connected, it has the switch to select the performance mode. The X-T2 has additional save options to support the second card slot. The X-T20 has no PC shoot mode selector. The menus and the firmware are nearly identical. It's the physical features that make the big difference, and some, like the X-T2's tilt screen, are fairly minor. Others, like the X-T20's touch screen or the X-T2's battery grip, are kind of a big deal. Picking one isn't an easy decision.